Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Nancy Drew Season 1, Episode 5, The Curse of the Wayward Spirit. Now, this is actually my all-time favorite Nancy Drew episode out of all 3 seasons. I remember when this first came on back in the day, I was just so wild by this. This is actually what caused me to be a huge fan of Leah, who plays George, and that's why she ended up being my favorite actress on this show. And because she wasn't my favorite character, because George was so grumpy. However, she does something towards the end of this episode that's very funny, but I didn't like George because she was just so grumpy and everything. But then we find out why she's so grumpy in this episode. And so Bess used to be my favorite character, actually, until now in the 3rd season when Bess just went plumb stupid. Well, actually, tell you the truth, no wait. Bess kind of stopped being my favorite character in Season 2 when she fell in love with that ghost. That was just stupid. And now it's just the whole witch thing. That makes no sense with the whole witches being in Nancy Drew show, and just all her weird relationships she's having now. She could be with Lizbeth if she really wanted to, but now she's not my favorite character no more. They're actually starting to make George my favorite character now and stuff, and so yeah. And stuff. But yeah, this is when Nancy Drew was at its best back in the day. And the cool thing about this episode is, for the most part, everybody has something to do. Well, except for Nick. He doesn't really have much to do in this episode. And so, but it was cool because, Stevie, who plays Laura, she was in this episode. And they did ghost possession really well, in my opinion. Instead of the hokey way they did it in Season 2. And for the most part, even Ace has something to do. And you know how I feel about Ace and stuff. So just a small recap of what happened in the last episode. Is so that Nancy Drew found out that Bess had stole Tiffany's ring. And so some weird, crazy, spooky stuff started happening to George. That was unlike, nobody could figure out how. And so they went to George's mom, and George's mom does things like spirits. She can talk to him, something like that. Oh no, she knows a lot about spirits and stuff. So she told them straight up that just put the ring back on the finger, then place a mirror over the chest of the dead body. That way the spirit can look at itself and something, and it can go back in its own body. If not, it will go in somebody else's body. Well, Bess was supposed to do that since she stole the ring and everything, but she couldn't because she was dealing with the whole ramifications of her famous aunt and family that Nancy just found out. So she's reeling over that, and George is all right, fine, I'll do it. George puts the ring back on the finger. She apologizes for sleeping with Ryan, having the affair, but she forgets to put the mirror because somebody came in. And then next thing you know, she gets possessed that night. So now possessed inside of the woman who had an affair with her married husband, Tiffany is very distraught. Leah does a very good job of acting Tiffany as a distraught, enraged ghost. She's very almost she's not so much zombie-like, but she's just very still, disoriented. She looks at herself in the mirror, and when she looks at herself in the mirror, all she sees is well, actually, before she looks in the mirror, she heads over to Ryan's place, and she breaks in, and then she looks and stares over his body. Then she goes into the bathroom, takes a shower, gets out, and then she takes his razor. I forgot what kind of razor they call it. Is it straight edge razor? No, what is they called? It's the kind the old school they used to use back in the 1800s. Looks like a switchblade almost. So she takes that and she pricks her finger and she writes in blood in the mirror, "I know." And like I said before, when she looks into the mirror, she doesn't see George's body. All she sees is her body, and she is pissed looking. the whole she knows thing, of course, that she knows now that Ryan had an affair with George. She hates George's guts. So the next day at the club, George is her normal self, and she's Bess is like talking to like some guy who comes into the place because he wants like catering done. His name is Owen, and so um George comes in busting in like wanting to put like a band-aid on, but she's upset because all they have is like the big stuff instead of a tiny little band-aid, and she doesn't know how she cut her finger. And so Bess is all like, you need to disinfect that, but George is like, all I need is a band-aid and stuff. And so Ace doesn't do much. He doesn't even try to stop her from barging in and stuff like that. And so the dude's all like, he wants to use this place as like a catering place for this event because he's gonna have it for Tiffany and everything, like some kind of like not really much of charity, but this is kind of like party to say goodbye, something like that. And George is all like, "Oh, that's so sweet." Now I wasn't sure if that was like George or Tiffany, but Ace says something that kind of upsets George. He's all like, "You do know this is the last place Tiffany was seen alive, right?" So like then George goes into the back room. And something interesting happens. She starts to get possessed again by like Tiffany. Now by this time, Nancy and Nick are a little upset at each other, but they're still together. Keep that in mind. They're still boyfriend and girlfriend, right? And so like Nancy just found out about the dude he killed and why him and Tiffany have a connection and stuff. Tiffany was really the only person who went to go see him in prison. I think he saved her from the person who tried on that he killed and stuff. And so Tiffany used to always see him. She was sending him coded messages and books. She gave him tons of like money in the form of bail bonds and stuff that are now expired. I think he can still cash them in, and so he could be a very rich person if he cashes them in, but for some reason he doesn't want to just now. And so Nancy comes to the claw, and she asks like, where's George and like stuff like that, and they're like, she's in the back. So for some reason she really wants to talk to George for something really important. I forget why. And when she tries to go into the room, the door is locked. So she busts it open, and it's George. She is on the floor grunting, and there's blood everywhere, and she has like all these pictures, and she's scratching out somebody's face with her fingernail, and that's so she recut the wound that she had before, and now it's worse because she's scratching at the floor, scratching at the pictures and stuff. So she's just like that, and it's so disturbing. It's like something out of The Ring or something like that, or some type of like ghost movie. And so Nancy tries to stop her, but she just won't stop. She keeps scratching out the faces. Then Ace and what's her name, Bess, shows up to try to stop her too. They determine that she must be possessed by Tiffany, because Bess is all like, she was supposed to do this and supposed to do that. And then they're all like, well, maybe she didn't put the mirror like, on the chest. So they go into George's locker, and boom, there's the mirror inside. So yeah, Bess screwed up, which is not surprising. That's kind of like what she does, So George is still possessed, and she's just standing there. And they try to tell Tiffany, like, look, we don't know how to put this, but you're dead and you're inside the body. And before they can finish, like, George speaks in his demonic voice as Tiffany talking about, I'm not dead and everything. And so like she doesn't even know that she died that night when she got attacked and stuff. And so like they show her reflection in the mirror, and it's George's face, and Tiffany passes out from like shock. Now it's kind of weird because when Tiffany looked into the mirror before, she saw herself, but now when she looks into a mirror, she sees George. So it's kind of pissy that she's in the body of the woman she really hates. So they go to George's mom to see what they can do to help her and stuff. Now, by this time, George is back in her own body. And when they talk to George's mom's all like, y'all only had like two things to do. Why didn't y'all follow my steps? Da 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 da, stuff like that. And so, like, they show her the pictures that are all scratched out. And she asked George straight up, this woman hates your guts. What did you do to her? See, her mom has no idea about the affair. And so George now has to tell her, and she's all like, what? You had like an affair with Ryan Hudson, a much older man, and you was underage? Why would you do something like that? And George points the finger at her mom, talking about, well, maybe because of how the way you were and stuff like that. And see, the thing about this is that George's mom is not a very good woman. She constantly drinks. She's an alcoholic. She's a neglectful mom. She has about 3, maybe 4 kids, and they all have different dads and stuff. Nancy tells us in the narration. I miss Nancy's narrations. I don't know why they stopped that for. Because you used to find out such a good little stuff, like, what she was thinking and stuff. And boy, she was judgmental. And so, like, but here's the problem with the woman who plays George's mom. Now, I like this actress. I saw her on something else before, many years ago. I think it was Super Fun Night that used to be on ABC. And so, like, it was out of, I don't think it was out of that or the B in Apartment 23. And I think it was Super Fun Night. And so, the problem with that is that this actress, one, she doesn't look old enough to be a mom, like, at all. She looked like she can play George's, like, college sister, right? And not only that, but she's a very likable actress, and so she plays the character very likable, even when she tries to be, like, snobbish and rude and stuff. It's just, like, I like her as an actress, but it was kind of like bad casting, because you're supposed to hate George's mom, but you can't because of the actress. So, like, they tell Nancy and them that they have to do some type of, almost kind of like not a seance, but kind of like this type of thing where they exorcise, like, the spirit from the living host and stuff like that. They have to perform a ritual. And since her mom has never done that before, she's heard about it from all her aunts that live in China. So she's going to perform the ritual. Now, after this episode, you really don't see much of George's mom. In fact, I can't remember no other episode that had her in there. And it's quite a shame, 'cause, like, I do like the actress. And also, since her mom knew stuff about ghosts and rituals and how to, like, exercise them, she would have came in handy in the other seasons. So I don't understand why they did that. Also, I don't understand. Like, this is back when the show was simpler and they could perform a ritual that got rid of a ghost inside of a person's body. So why couldn't they do that to that French ghost that was inside George's body? All they had to do with the same ritual and everything. Although the reason why this ghost went into George's body is completely different from the other reasons. So maybe that's why. Also, the other ghost was kind of demonic a little bit. This one's not. But I don't know. They should have been able to do the same thing. So, who knows? Now, like I said before, Laura, Tiffany's sister, is in this episode, played by Stevie. After this season, she got completely written out and went to a different country. I don't understand why. The actress doesn't understand why. It's just really dumb on their parts and stuff. But, because she could have gave Ace something to do. But I guess, since the whole Tiffany thing ended in season 1, there was no point in having a sister. But, I digress. So, in the last episode, she came back with a Fury. She's this, like, really fierce young girl, about the same age as, like, Nancy and her friends. And something about her and Ace had, like, a connection years ago, something like that. So they rekindled their relationship. But she's just using Ace to get information on her sister. She broke into Nick's place. And she stole, like, a flash drive out of the box. He thought the box was empty, but apparently there was a hidden compartment that somehow she knew about, and she stole like a flash drive. So he wants that back. Like I said before, he doesn't do much in this episode. And so she uses Ace to get the recording of the 911 call that Tiffany made the night she was murdered. And he like does, and so remember, he's working with that police chief dude, the sheriff. So what happened was, in the last episode, number 4, was that when they're at like the funeral wake thing with the recording, as like the dad, Ryan's dad, is talking, she plays the recording so loud for everybody to hear. Then she makes a big speech talking about, I know my sister was murdered and I'm gonna find out who did it. And so the police sheriff dude, he's pissed at Ace. And so now like Ace is on his real bad side where he threatens Ace and stuff. And so like, for the most part, like I said, yeah, she's just using Ace to get intel on her sister. So Laura comes into the claw when Nick and Ace are there, and she wants Nick to give her the password to the flash drive, but because she only has one more try before she's locked out. And so like they get into a bit of an argument a little bit, and Ace convinces her to give him like the flash drive and stuff, because like but she doesn't want to do it, and so she takes it. And so Nick, he's not sure what the password is either. So this is going to be hard, because this flash drive has a lot of documents on it. Now I know what you're wondering, well, what is Nancy doing in this episode since the show is like named after her? Well, she is constantly being pursued and spied on by the female detective lady. I forget her name. And so in the last week's episode, she constantly kept following Nancy around to where Nancy and Nick had to disguise themselves and sneak out the place. And so Bess and Ace pretended to be Nancy and Nick driving in the car and stuff. And so like Nancy is still doing like her like detective thing of trying to find out about the whole Tiffany murder, which later leads her to the whole Lucy Sable murder, like I told you before. And so the detective woman, she thinks like, I don't know, she kind of thinks Nancy's guilty, kind of doesn't, but she lies to Nancy saying she doesn't know Lucy Sable. They went to school together. Nancy finds a picture of both the detective lady and Lucy, so she knows that lady's lying. So she's constantly calling her, but can't get in touch with her, which is very suspicious. Then she heads to the police station, and they don't want her to see the detective lady. So that's kind of odd. Well, now when Nancy is at the little party thing that they're having, she starts to get wigged out a little bit, because all of a sudden there's like this like hole that's been dug up, and there's some like fabric sticking out, and she pulls the fabric up, and then all of a sudden it's like Lucy's hand grabbing onto Nancy. She freaks out, but then the detective lady comes in. After that, the little hole in the ground is gone, and so is Lucy's hand. So she talks to the detective lady and is all like, why'd you lie to me? And she said, all right, fine. Like she used to be friends with her, but then all of a sudden, like a year later when something happened, that's the year that, Lucy was murdered and died and stuff like that. So basically they was friends, they fell apart, and then Lucy just died after that. And so she said something about like this, a time capsule with a lot of Lucy's stuff in there. And so Nancy now wants to find this thing, but the time capsule is buried where the property that Owen owns and stuff, that she realizes. So of course she needs to get close to him to get this time capsule. Nancy heads back to the claw because she works there, and Owen is there, the dude who's gonna be doing like the charity like fundraiser type party type thing or whatever for Tiffany. And so everybody's there, right? And Nick is there, and because he works there too. And so Nick does not believe that George is possessed by a ghost. This is back when he didn't believe, and most of the other ones didn't believe because there was no ghosts in town. Then, of course, in the second season, now everybody knows about ghosts. And then in the third season, nobody knows about ghosts anymore. So it's inconsistent writing. But anyway, something odd happens. He gets really pissed and bangs like some of the equipment on the table. Why? Because of the way Nancy and Owen are talking to each other. Owen is flirting with her. Nancy is smiling back and flirting back. This pisses off Nick because him and Nancy are dating. And they had a huge argument before because she believed he probably killed like Tiffany and stuff. And it's kind of like, dude, why is Nancy flirting with another guy? And she's with another guy. This is that one thing about Nancy I've always found odd and intriguing, and I've never liked about her because she'll start like a flirtation relationship. Like after her and Nick break up in season one, like they break up halfway into season one, right? And so the thing is, when she starts having like a flirtatious relationship with somebody else, that quickly drops and then she starts with like another person. That happens in every season, especially when it has to do with Ace. Like, oh, she having dreams that she's doing him. But then all of a sudden she's with some other person and it's just kind of like, what's going on? So he ain't happy whatsoever about this. And Nancy doesn't even know who Owen is, but now she's gonna start like using him to help get some stuff on Lucy Sable and stuff. So it's the big like party thing that he hired him for, right? George is there, and George is still George, and so like George is like frantic, trying to get everything right. Somebody mentions the name Tiffany, and boom, Tiffany takes over her body when she sees Ryan, and she is not happy when she sees Ryan. What does she do? She grabs a kitchen knife, a butcher knife, and then she heads to like a van that had like the catering stuff and the flowers, right? And then she sees like a red dress inside. Next thing you know, when we see her, she has knife in hand and she's wearing that red dress and some black heels. Her hair is now down and she wants to kill Ryan. See, her mom explained to her that the longer Tiffany stays in her body, it's gonna kill George. Same thing with the whole Odette ghost from second season. Now, what her mom also reveals is that Tiffany might not be aware of what's really going on. She doesn't have her full memories yet, and when she does, she'll be stronger. So for right now, she's just a ghost out for revenge. The only memory she has is him like having an affair. And so like she is constantly walking around looking for him. Now at this point in time, the gang now knows that Tiffany has possessed George, and they're looking for her. And they blurt out the name Tiffany. Laura overhears this and she asks Ace straight up, why did you mention my sister's name? And he tries to play it off. Nick at this time still doesn't believe that the ghost is inside George. And so Laura like persuades Ace to tell her what's going on by like kissing him and stuff. So when like they find George, Nancy finds her in the kitchen. She talks to like Tiffany. She tries to calm Tiffany down. Tiffany does not want to be calmed down. She just wants revenge. So then Bess comes in with George's mom and they start doing the ritual. It's a weird thing. They have to put like all this stuff together with incense, candles, and start blowing it. Nick is now there. He doesn't believe it, but he's helping out anyway, right? Once he starts to hear like it has to do like with Tiffany and stuff like that. And so they're doing the ritual, right? And it's starting to work. And before it could end, Laura busts in and she ruins everything. She starts, like, she just believes straight up in ghosts and believes that Tiffany's inside George's body. And so she's talking to, like, Tiffany. Tiffany recognizes her and drops the knife. And so, like, she's all like, oh my God, I can't believe I had you back, my sister, blah, 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 stuff like that. And they're all like, well, you better say your goodbyes real quick because she's about to leave this body. And Laura's like, I want my sister back. She breaks all the, like, ritual stuff, and Tiffany flees out the room. It's like, dude, what is she thinking, Laura, and stuff like that? It's kind of like, even if she has her sister back, it's gonna be in somebody else's body. And it's kind of weird that she believes them straight up about ghosts. And she's never seen a ghost. So George slash Tiffany finds Ryan. Ryan's pissed. He's like, George, like, why did you break into, like, my place and everything? Now, see, George is now George and still with a knife in hand. And so she tells Ryan to help her, but he doesn't know what's going on. He's all like, look, you broke into my place. Only you and my wife had the code to get inside my place. And so, like, why did you take a shower? Why did you write I know in blood and all this other stuff? This wakes up Tiffany. Now, Ryan's arc in this whole thing is that he wants Tiffany's money because he lost all his because he's been frozen out of his assets when it comes to his family money. Owen is somebody who can help do that, but he doesn't really want to. And so, this is now when Tiffany tries to kill Ryan, talking about I know and all this other stuff and blah 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 blah. He does not know what the world's going on. The Drew crew breaks in and they stop Tiffany from killing him. So he runs out there. So then they perform the ritual again. And so George's mama said something very nice. She's all like, I love my daughter, blah, blah. You're going to give my daughter a body back, blah, 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 stuff like that. Nancy used this opportunity to ask who killed you and everything. And they're all like, dude, what are you doing? Because the longer she's in George's body, the stronger she's going to become. And so Tiffany doesn't say who. But then Nick comes in and he just professes like how sorry he is that you're dead, and he's gonna do everything he can to make sure like your killer is brought to justice and stuff. And she tells him the name Dante and everything. But Dante's not the killer. He knows what that means. Dante was the first book that she gave him, so that must be the password to like the flash drive and stuff. And so they do the ritual. The ritual is performed in Mandarin. It's really cool to hear that, you know what I'm saying? It was different because you don't really hear stuff like that in a show like this. And then boom, they get the body out of like, George. And so now the body is now completely back into the Tiffany's dead body. George doesn't really know what's going on. And it's funny because like, her and Nancy are having a bonding moment, and Nancy starts patting her on the knee, and George takes her hand and kind of like flicks it off. Oh, George, I swear. So Ace and like Ned, they like, they get the flash drive and they use Dante as the passcode, and there's all these documents coming up, all this stuff on the flash drive. So they start doing their own little investigation type thing. Now, at this point, Nick is really pissed at Nancy because, again, he saw her talking to Owen and flirting with him again. Nick is at his wit's end. But of course, Nancy is kind of using Owen a little bit to get to the time capsule. He agrees to, like, dig up that hole where the time capsule is buried. And when she goes through it, she finds all kind of stuff. Toothbrush, some like some old stuff from like the 90s, a CD and all this other stuff. She plays like the CD flash drive, not flash drive, but the CD-ROM type thing, and it's a video of Lucy Sable on there. I think this is the first time she's ever seen Lucy. And when the video is messing up and flickering around, which I don't know why it would, because, you know, they treat it like it's a VHS tape, like it's flickering back and forth and you're trying to rewind back and forth. But CDs don't do that. When CDs mess up, they kind of like just pause at where they're at and they don't really flicker. They might flicker, but they just stay paused and they won't move, and it's kind of just messed up. So bad writing on that. They should have known better. And so then she sees a video of Lucy at her high school with this guy. Somehow Nancy realizes this guy is Ryan, and Ryan knew Lucy, but Ryan has never disclosed that. So now the plot thickens of the whole Ryan-Lucy mystery, which I've already explained in an earlier video when I did this. Did I do the season 1 rundown? I'm not really sure. I've made so many Nancy Drew videos, I have no idea. But yeah, all in all, this was a pretty cool episode. I like the idea of George being possessed. I like the idea of like how crazed and possessed like Leah, who plays George, looked. I like the idea of Ned getting jealous with Nancy, because that eventually will lead to their breakup and stuff. I like how Ace had a little bit something to do, because the dude never does anything. It sucks that Nick and Bess don't do much, but you know, when they do stuff, it's like pretty cool. I love the fact like they brought in George's mom and she actually got to do stuff, and this actress I like. I just wish they could have kept her around so she can do more. I love how like Laura actually, like, you know, she helps the plot like move on in a very like third party kind of way. That's why I was so like upset when they wrote her character out. But she doesn't be featured much in this like season, and it's kind of depressing because you think she would, because that is Tiffany's sister and everything, you know. And Tiffany's sister Laura should have had more scenes with Ryan and the Hudson family, but she really doesn't, other than that first introduction that she had. So it's a shame that they didn't build much up on that, but you know how these writers are over there, Nancy Drew. So, like, you know. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.